Hello, everyone. This past weekend in June was Garden State Comic Fest. It is New Jersey's biggest comic fest. Basically, it's held every year. This is actually the 10th year that it was held, but it was my first time attending, and I had a great time. I met some absolutely amazing comic book creators, and I was able to get quite a few books that were on my list, things that I've been looking for a really long time now. And so I'm looking forward to showing off everything that I got today. So immediately the first thing I did when I got to the venue was go look for the artists. But I actually wanted to start off the video with the things that I got and then move on to the signatures and then the few special things at the end. So the first vendors that I went to, I always go to them, and this is their shout out, JJL Collectibles. They always hook you up with good prices. They have an amazing inventory, and they're very, very nice. If you ever contact them, they're very, very good people. But anyway, they know how much I love Venom, and they always have a really good supply of Venom books. So the first book I picked out was Venom #2 from 2003. If you're wondering about the Post-it with the number 62 on it, one of my goals is to complete the entire Venom Legacy run, and in the Legacy run, this issue is actually number 62, so it helps me keep track of what number the book is in the Legacy run. The next book I picked up was Venom number 155. I believe I think this is from 2017. It's 2016 or 17 if I'm not mistaken. And then I got Venom number 156, as well as Venom number 164. I got two other bigger things from them. So JJL held a private signing with Joe Rubinstein, who, if you don't know, is a very, very prominent comic book creator, and they did a live stream, and you could ask for a book on the live stream, and they'd sign it, and then they'd hold it for you, or they'd mail it to you. In this case, they held this book for me. This is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man number 120 from 1984, and it was signed by Joe Rubinstein for me back in May, and obviously I was able to pick it up when I went there to Garden State Comic Fest. The last book I got from JJL Collectibles is one of the heavy hitters. It's a book I've had on my list for a long time now. It's also the only slabbed book that I picked up when I went to Garden State Comic Fest, and it's this. This is Amazing Spider-Man 298 from 1988, which is it's the first cameo appearance of Venom. Obviously, you could argue Web of Spider-Man 18, but this is the first time you see like the symbiote wrap around Eddie Brock. It's also Todd McFarlane's first art on Spider-Man, and it's a newsstand 9.0. Yeah, I was very happy with this book. I got a great price on it, and I mean, I'm happy I can check this one off my list. This is one of the big ones. So someday I'll have 299 and 300, but until then, I have 298. 301 is up on the wall over there. So I'm getting used to the camera, but yeah, I have 298 now, so I'm very happy to have it. After I visited JJL, I walked around some more, got the lay of the land. I always just go to them first, but I got the lay of the land, got a few signings done, which I'll get to later, but and also got a few books that I'm going to save for later because they're special books. But the only other vendor that I visited was AJ's House of Comics, who run my favorite comic show that I've always gone to, which is Super Jersey Comic Expo. If you've never gone, it's a very, very good Comic-Con with great creators, great books, great vendors. But anyway, they had absolutely stacked wall books. For me, I can't afford the $2,000 Silver Age, Golden Age books, so I'm still working with the more popular Still, sometimes they can be pricey, but not those big books. Obviously, they had the Silver Age and Golden Age vendors at that show, but anyway, I'll save all that for later because I got 2 stacks of books. I went there and then I came back right before I left to go and get some more books. But the first book I saw, because this book was on my list and immediately caught my eye, was Web of Spider-Man 32, which is the famous Mike Zeck, Kraven's Last Hunt, Spider-Man coming out the grave cover. This copy is fairly beat up. There's like issues with the corners, both ones in the front. There's a lot of spine ticks, but I don't care. It's a newsstand, and it was a great price, and I want to have the book. I don't need a CGC 9.8, especially not in this book. The CGC 9.8 in this book's a few $100s, so I'm happy with my copy. And to go along with it, he also had Web of Spider-Man 31 right before it. This one is also a newsstand. It's in better shape. Besides, there's like a bend up here. You can't really... no, it's in the front. You can't really see it on the camera, but there's a bend right there. But yeah, I got both these books from this vendor. And then I got a bigger one that I have a list of the 5 keys that I was trying to get this year. Going in, I already had 2 and I walked out with 2 more. This was one of them. This is Uncanny X-Men 221. If you've kept up, I believe Sinister is an X-Men 97. I haven't watched it, but this is the first appearance of Mr. Sinister, and it's also a newsstand. And it's also just, this book is absolutely beautiful. I don't see a single issue with it, honestly. It's beautiful. And the price was actually fair. And a story about con prices, if you've ever been to Comic-Cons, you know that some people like to overcharge. Well, I saw another copy of this book beforehand from another vendor. It was a direct edition, so less valuable, in worse shape. And they were trying to charge $200 for it, which is more than double what I got this for. So I don't know. You gotta look out. And so I was glad that I was able to get it for not $200, which that book was not worth from the other vendor. The second to last book in my first trip was this. This is Batman Annual number 25, which is the origin of the Red Hood. I believe, yeah, it's a Jock cover. That's what I was checking for. If you don't know who Jock is, Jock made that really famous Joker cover with all the bats that make up Joker's face. So yeah, I big fan of Jock's Batman covers. And finally, one last book that is now my oldest comic is this. This is Amazing Spider-Man 39 from 1966 with the iconic John Romita Sr. cover. It was his first work on Spider-Man. The coupon there is a coupon missing, but I don't really care about that. I'm not grading the book. I'm just gonna keep it for myself, and I'm ecstatic to own this. This is the oldest comic I own now. 12-cent Silver Age Spider-Man. So yeah, that's very, very special to me. Again, Amazing Spider-Man 39. So that was the first stack of books that I got from AJ's House of Comics. I ended up walking out with 4 more from them. The first one I grabbed was on the wall. It was Uncanny X-Men 135 from 1980 from the Dark Phoenix storyline. This is the iconic Dark Phoenix cover with her grabbing the trade dress. This is like a very fine copy. There's like a bend right there. I think it's visible on camera. There's a few spine ticks. There's also a couple print lines in the middle, but that doesn't really bother me. I love this cover. This is honestly one of like the best 80s X-Men covers that I can think of. And funnily enough, I got the subsequent issue, which is also another one of the best 80s X-Men covers, which is Uncanny X-Men 136. That was a newsstand. It's the Obviously, the Crisis on Infinite Earths cover, very iconic, similar. I really like this particular cover as well. It's very, very solemn, even though Jean doesn't actually, obviously Jean doesn't die in this issue, that's the next issue, but this one is a lot beat up. The entire spine is full of dirt and other gunk, but I don't really mind. I really like this cover. And then I walked out with two early 2000s, mid 2000s Spider-Man books. The first one is this one, Amazing Spider-Man 529, right before Civil War. Obviously, this prelude to Civil War. This is the first Iron Spider. Not the biggest fan of the comic Iron Spider suit personally. It looks too Iron Man-y for me. Ironically enough, I feel the MCU did it better because at least it looks more like Spider-Man. This looks like Iron Man made a Spider-Man suit, which I know is the point, but it just doesn't look as Spider-Man to me. And the last book I picked up from AJ's House of Comics is Amazing Spider-Man 546, the start of Brand New Day. I own all of One More Day, unfortunately. It's always a toss-up what's worse between Sins Past and One More Day. I'd probably go with One More Day. Sins Past is gross and weird, but the things that One More Day did to Spider-Man as a whole. But hey, I like the Steve McNiven cover. I do like Brand New Day. I like I know it's not, it's technically part of Brand New Day, New Ways to Die. You can see back there, there's a New Ways to Die book right there, graded. But yeah, I love the books that I got. Their prices were incredibly fair. They actually were selling under fair market value for a lot of the conditions. And honestly, if it works for them, it works for them. I'm glad I was able to get the books for the prices that I got them for, so yeah. Alright, so I mentioned all the books that I got, sort of, but obviously the big thing there were the creators. I've been to like small local comic shows, I've been to bigger cons, and while the prices at cons are usually worse, I think that the trade-off is that a lot of creators are there, and this show was no exception. There were some legends of the comic book industry. Well, I mentioned I walked in, immediately beelined it to Artist Alley because I know how lines can get. So the biggest people there, who are surprised if you don't know, I'll get to them because I did get stuff signed, were not there yet. So I went to Daryl Banks and Ron Mars. This is Green Lantern 49. This book, these next couple books I already own and I brought with me. It's a little difficult to see because they used green on a green cover, but Daryl Banks is right there, and Ron Mars is right above him. For those who don't know, this issue is from the Emerald Twilight storyline, which is when Hal Jordan goes insane after the destruction of Coast City by Cyborg, Superman, and Mongol, and he just goes on a rampage. This cover is extremely iconic. Ron Mars did the story of Emerald Twilight, and Daryl Banks worked on the cover of this particular cover. I think he did the other ones as well. Yeah, there were no lines. Daryl Banks had no line. Ron Mars had a little bit of a line, but no big deal. It was like 2 minutes. And yeah, I'm glad I got this signed. Big fan of this storyline and what it did for Green Lantern. Obviously, it led to the rise of Kyle Rayner, the creation of Parallax. So yeah, I'm glad that I was able to get it signed by two of the people who worked on it, who are actually sitting next to each other. This was the big book that I got signed. Well, not a super valuable book, but I'll just show it. It's X Factor number 24, the first full appearance of Archangel. And there were 3 people there who worked on it. The first one I got was Bob Wyacek. I mentioned earlier that the people I beelined it for weren't there. It was the Simonsons. The Simonsons were not there when I got there. So I had to wait. I got Bob Wiacek to sign it, and then I waited an hour in line for Walt and Louise Simonson. I'm gonna be real. It was mainly because there was someone interviewing them when I first got online, and then there were people that there was a guy who brought like 2 short boxes full of comics for the 2 of them to sign, which I get it. Like, obviously these creators are up there in age, and they're all, I mean, you're paying to get them done, but I mean, sometimes it felt a little bit inconsiderate, but I mean, hey, to each their own. I might end up doing it someday, so I won't complain about it. But Louise signed right there, and Walt signed up there, and I also asked Walt Simonson to do a remark of Jean Grey for me. So yeah, this book is a 101 now. It has the triple signature and the unique remark that he dated, which, I don't know, I know artists do that, but it really made me smile when I was there. The last book I also got signed by one of the Simonsons. This is Web of Spider-Man #1, which Louise Simonson wrote, and she signed it right there. And it was again, it was pretty surreal. Like my favorite moment from like waiting for the signatures so far, because there's a couple more things, but my favorites of these particular books, when I was online waiting to get my book signed, there was actually someone who asked Walt Simonson to do a sketch of Thor. He had like a beard and some visor. I don't know. It was I don't read Thor, and I haven't read Walt Simonson's run on Thor, but I mean, just watching the man work was crazy. So I really enjoyed the wait. It didn't feel like an hour. It was an hour, but it didn't really feel like it, besides when the guy had the 2 short boxes. But hey, I can't complain. I might end up doing that someday. So I've been building up the last category of things that I got at the show, and it was books that I bought there but then had signed. So there were 2 books I bought there that I ended up getting signed. This vendor, I only got this book from them. I don't know their unfortunately I don't remember their, like, what the name of the vendor was, but I will say extremely good book selection and extremely fair prices. They had 20 copies of this book. This is Spider-Man #1, the Todd McFarlane run. This is the silver edition. I have the regular one, but I didn't have the silver. I'm still looking for the gold. But I got it signed by Bob Sharon, who did the colors. He was there. I had previously gotten the original version signed by him back in October at Super Jersey Comic Expo. So now I have both versions signed. Hopefully, if I get the gold version, I can get it signed by him too. And he told me last time I got it signed, and also this time, anytime he signs a Todd McFarlane book, he writes on the inside, "Todd owes me money," because apparently, according to him, Todd McFarlane took an unknown amount of money from Sharon and Rick Parker, the letterer on these books, I guess from the profits, and then didn't tell them. So I sense a little bit of hostility, which I understand if someone took money from you, but I mean, anyway, I'm just glad I got this book signed. The price on the book was fair. The signature was done in beautiful white against a black background with the silver. So yeah, I really like this book. And the last book, I mentioned that I have 5 keys for the year. This was technically the 3rd one I got, but this is the 3rd one I got on the list, but I saved it till now, and it's probably my favorite book that I got that day. It is Batman Vengeance of Bane #1 that I got from Nemesis Comics, and even if I did not remember it, the name of the vendor is on the back of the board. But yeah, this is the first appearance of Bane, which is a book I'm still a little bit surreal that I own. Yeah, Bane is my favorite Batman villain. The book was extremely fairly priced. It's a little bit... It has a couple big bends on the spine. Obviously, this is a square-bound book, so that can happen. But I don't mind. I'm not getting it graded. And I got it signed by Graham Nolan, who was there. and was probably the nicest creator I've ever met at a show. He complimented my shirt. We had a little bit of a conversation. I thanked him, obviously, for helping to create the character. I mean, I know it sounds a little cheesy, but I did. I told him about how Bane was my favorite villain, and there aren't really, I told him, and it's the truth, there aren't really many comic book villains like Bane. I mean, every villain has like their primary antagonist. I mean, you don't think of Bane as Batman's primary antagonist, you think of Joker, right? But Bane and what Bane's been used for in more recent times, this is what he was used for. But when he was first introduced, this and Nightfall was one of the greatest comic book stories ever, in my opinion. So I'm extremely happy to own this book, and I'm even more happy that I got Graham Nolan to sign it. So that's everything I bought and signed at Garden State Comic Fest 2024. I only went on Saturday, I didn't go on Sunday. But I still had an amazing time, amazing experiences. I had some nice conversations, both with the creators and just with other people at the show. It's a lot of what the show is. It's community, right? Like, obviously, I mean, I'm not gonna act like comic book collecting is like a niche thing, but I mean, it's its own little community, right? And I talked to someone on the line for Walter Louise Simonson for half an hour. I didn't even know them, and it was just a great experience. Obviously, talking to the creators, talking to Ron Mars, talking to Darryl Banks, Graham Nolan, Walt Simonson, Louise Simonson, Bob Wyacek, and Bob Sharon. It was amazing. I saw my favorite vendors. I met some new vendors who were really great. And honestly, going to comic book shows is great. It's a really great experience, besides just obviously getting things, like buying new things. It's a great community, and I really enjoy it. So thank you. I hope you enjoy this video, and until the next one, I'll see you then.